Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Say what? Say what? Say what? One more time.
We kick things off with our signature segment, Say What, where we roll out a virtual assembly line of wacky, astonishing, damnable, and ultimately revealing things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. Everyone seems headed on the midnight train to Georgia, where not one but two Senate races will be decided on January 5th with great drama, because Republicans need to win at least one to block Democrats from effectively controlling the Senate for the next 2 years, a 50-50 tie with Kamala Harris in place to break ties, which together with their hold on the House of Representatives and soon likely the White House, would give Democrats broad power to effect serious progressive reform. So both sides are pouring everything into the Peach State, where Joe Biden finished barely ahead of Donald Trump on election night. One of the consequences is that at least 4 leftist organizations have tried to induce illegal voting down there, as outlined by Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
We have opened an investigation into a group called America Votes, who is sending absentee ballot applications to people at addresses where they have not lived since 1994. Vote Forward, who attempted to register a dead Alabama voter, a woman, to vote here in Georgia. The New Georgia Project, who sent voter registration applications to New York City. And Operation New Voter Registration Georgia, who is telling college students in Georgia that they can change their residency to Georgia and then change it back after the election. Let me be very clear again. Voting in Georgia when you are not a resident of Georgia is a felony.
Not that will necessarily stop leftists from doing whatever is required to win those 2 races. Meanwhile, President Trump's legal team is rounding the final bend in their efforts to overturn the reported results as they continue to file one lawsuit after another across 6 battleground states. But they've failed to persuade one judge after another that their claims are valid enough or would add or subtract enough votes to change any of the outcomes. As prominent constitutional attorney Jonathan Turley says, the courts are deciding that the cure for the problems is worse than the disease.
The problem is that there's this disconnect between the evidence and the relief being sought. You know, they've shown irregularities. They've shown unlawful orders. They've even shown thousands of votes that were not counted. But they haven't amounted to the type of numbers that would change the outcome in a given state. But more importantly, these judges have balked at the idea of essentially negating millions of votes as a form of relief. In Pennsylvania, the court said, look, these voters do appear to have been denied their right to vote. I'd rather count their votes than to not count millions of others.
So the clock ticks down and President Trump will soon have to decide how to proceed, and no one, probably including him, is sure what he will do next, though he has now said he'll be visiting Georgia to weigh in on those pivotal Senate races. But of course, none of this has stopped Trump's opponent from continuing to build his cabinet. And in an interview on NBC, Joe Biden affirmed that we are headed back to the new old world order.
America's back. We're at the head of the table once again. I've spoken with over 20 world leaders, and they all are literally really pleased and somewhat excited. America's going to reassert its role in the world and be a coalition builder.
This lineup, those you've selected so far, a lot of familiar faces among them. What do you say to those who are wondering if you're trying to create a third Obama term?
This is not a third Obama term because we face a totally different world than we faced in the Obama-Biden administration. President Trump has changed the landscape. It's become America first, which meant America alone.
So Biden cuts a decent swath trying to look presidential, despite a walking boot for a broken foot he got while playing with his dog. But that was, unfortunately, Not the only embarrassing moment for the gaffe-prone former vice president this week. He put that booted foot directly in his mouth with this beauty about one of the most famous books in the Bible.
If we do, and I'm sure we can proclaim the psalmist, with the psalmist who wrote these following words: "The Lord is my strength and my shield."
Palms, not Psalms, or maybe that's like a Delaware dialect or something. On the home front, Biden turned heads, to say the least, by naming political consultant and progressive activist Neera Tanden as director of the Office of Management and Budget, of all things. And she immediately used the story of her family growing up to make clear that a big, powerful government is her passion.
We relied on food stamps to eat. We relied on Section 8 housing vouchers to pay the rent. We relied on the social safety net to get back on our feet. I'm here today thanks to my mother's grit, but also thanks to a country that had faith in us, that invested in her humanity and in our dreams. I'm here today because of social programs.
So we're going to get an undiluted progressive operative managing the national budget if she ever gets confirmed, which may never happen. And GOP Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas says the naming of Tanden lays to rest any notion of Joe Biden actually trying to bring the country together.
Neera Tanden's nomination, like so many of the nominations that Joe Biden's already made, show that he is not committed to unifying the country. He's not committed to governing from the center, as he said so much. I mean, look, his DHS nominee, Alejandro Mayorkas, is an open borders advocate who was intervening on behalf of rich Democrats to sell citizenship to America. Now, Neera Tanden has said Congress should not pass another coronavirus relief package unless we're willing to give checks to illegal immigrants. If she were the head of the Office of Management and Budget, she'd probably cook up some nonsense numbers to suggest that an amnesty or sanctuary cities would somehow reduce the federal deficit. She is so far to the left that it gives the lie to Joe Biden's promises during the campaign trail to be governing from the center.
Not that we actually expected Biden to be a so-called moderate, because frankly, moderate Democrats are all but extinct.
Stay ahead of the curve with LibertyNation.com. With one click, Liberty Nation delivers tomorrow's news.
And remember, liberty.
Today.
All the time and everywhere.
With LNTV's hot topics and analysis.
You're looking at people just rising up.
Liberty Nation Radio, the Uprising and Rabbit Hole podcasts, and dozens of insightful original articles. And now, you can keep your kids ahead of the curve with LNGenZ.com. LN Gen Z brings a free-thinking education right into your home for students of every grade level with articles, videos, worksheets, and ready-to-go curricula. While the media establishment giants are sleeping, you can stay ahead of the curve with LibertyNation.com and get tomorrow's news today. Liberty Nation and LNGenZ.com.